Hi, this is Denise with PaperKraftD, and today we're going to continue experimenting on old school notes to see what can remove the ink so that we can use them in our junk journals. As you know from our previous experiments, not all inks were removable with coffee dyeing alone. The inks that you see on the left-hand side, the really light blue and the reds, came out great. These inks in the middle that are dark blue, not so much. So we're going to experiment a little bit further today, use some different methods to see if there are things that might be more effective. So let's get started. Okay, so I have these other pages that have this blue ink, and I'm not sure what this blue ink is. Like I said, these are from 2000. I really don't know what kind of ink I use, but I did have some luck taking that ink off with some isopropyl alcohol. This one happens to be 99%. I think anything 70 above is fine, or 60 and above is fine. I put a little bit of this alcohol in a spray bottle, and you can see that it moved the ink pretty quickly. You can see how it's starting to spread right there, but this stuff it evaporates really quickly. So kind of before it can really take most of the ink off, it starts to evaporate. So I didn't find that was a great way to do this. So I'm just going to add the ink that's in here on top. You can see how that really moves it very quickly. But again, you run into the problem of evaporation. So what I did find that worked pretty well to help minimize evaporation is using some of this hand sanitizer. And if you're like me, with COVID, I got this big, huge thing of hand sanitizer that I'm not sure I'll ever use all of this, so I don't mind using a little bit in this. And that has 60% alcohol, isopropyl alcohol in it. Okay, and so I just took it and I kind of spread it around, used this little brush on it. Oops, quite a bit there. Okay, look at that. It's already starting to dissolve it. This worked, and then I just kind of added, a little bit more of this. You can see that does it pretty quickly there. Before I only did a few sheets, so this is a lot more sheets than I did previously. And luckily the hand sanitizer that I have smells pretty good, so I'm kind of happy about that. I unfortunately did not have a lot of black ink to use as examples. And I have heard that blue ink is a little bit easier to dissolve and take off than black ink, but we'll see. Oops. All right, and I have another one of these, just to see how these different pens, how it comes off with these different kinds of pens. You can see it is already starting to work on some of them at least. Okay. this is the last one of the blue ink. And then I wanted to show you, I have pencil, notes in pencil. So I'll just put those in there, see if that does anything. And then I have one more of that, and the one that came off just with the, oops, just with the coffee dye, but we'll see how this works on it as well. Okay, and then I'm just gonna do a little splash of some of this isopropyl alcohol on top, and then I'm gonna cover it. Just covering it with this. You could use plastic wrap. I'm trying to avoid too much evaporation, so I'm just covering it like that. And I'll let that sit. Okay, so here are the results of the experiment. Again, this was using isopropyl alcohol and the hand sanitizer, which contained isopropyl alcohol 60% and higher. The majority of these were the dark blue pen that did not come off with the coffee dye alone. This first paper that I'm going to take off, you remember, is that light blue ink that did come off with coffee dye. And as you can see, it came off as well, really well with the isopropyl alcohol. All right, this one was the pencil. So that transferred some of the ink, but it didn't really do much. Okay, so this is the dark blue ink that did not come off with the coffee dyeing alone, and you can see that the alcohol did move the ink and lighten it quite a bit. It's a little bit lighter, a lot of transfer of blue on there. What's going on with this one? Okay, this one looks like maybe it needs a little bit more movement right here. Just rub it a little bit, get it to move around a little bit more. I'm gonna dye. I'm gonna add coffee dye to coffee to some of these. But I think I might just try drying some of these without these that didn't do anything. You can see, wow, this really lightened a lot of the pens. It's really pretty colors actually from that. So that's kind of interesting. I think I'm just going to keep that to the side there. Huh. You can see some of these actually transferred. I have Energel ink on that. Huh. That's interesting. What I did it before, I didn't put so many in at once, so maybe it works better if you don't have so many papers in at once. But you know, I'm trying to make this quick and easy, so kind of defeats the point if I have to do each page separately. So I have to kind of balance that, I guess. All right, so the interesting thing about this is that it's actually drying fairly quickly because it's, you know, alcohol based. So that's really interesting. So I'm gonna take, and on some of them I'm gonna leave them the way they are. Some of them I'm gonna just soak them in some coffee. Let's see, these are already, some of these are already starting to dry around the edges, so it's kind of interesting. And I'm just reusing this coffee, so it's it could already have some ink in it from the gel. Look at that one. It's really interesting. Huh. I think I'm just going to do that one really lightly. See what happens with that one. I really like that. This one too. I'm just going to do this one really lightly. Okay, so I'm putting these that I did not soak for very long, that I just kind of dipped in the coffee on a rack so that I can dry them in the oven at 200 degrees, just until they're dry. So I let these soak for maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes. I honestly think I might like it better when it's not soaked so much in the coffee, but it's just kind of like put through very lightly. Okay, so I'm just putting the rest of these on the rack really quickly, and then we'll go over the results. These just turned out so cool. I am so excited about these. I really love that you get like all this, like, I don't know, just the bleed of the blue here, and then this darker, you know, coffee, and then like this really strong stenciling effect from the plastic placemats. I just love that. And you can even see a little bit of red in here and stuff. I think it's so cool. You know, you can very faintly see some words, but I would totally use this in a junk journal. I think it's actually kind of cool looking. It just adds a little more texture as far as I'm concerned. This side, you can see the words a little bit more. The funny part is that it doesn't look like I actually wrote on this side of the paper. It looks like they either bled through from the front or they bled from another sheet that was laid on top of it. So, you know, do with that what you will, depending on how much, you know, you want or don't want any cross bleeding of color in your papers. You know, maybe don't stack them like I did. Do them each individually. I don't know. I was just trying to do them fast and get them done. So, oh, the other thing I wanted to point out is that, interestingly, you know, the alcohol, or, you know, in this case, I used hand sanitizer along with alcohol, took off all the lines on this lined paper. So there's no lines left. So that's also something to consider when you're doing it. But it did a pretty good job, I think, of taking the ink off. This one's also really interesting, and this one turned out pretty dark. So yeah, but I think it's pretty. Okay, I've got this one. Yeah, and that has some interesting colors in it. Got some reds and different colors in there. This has some really pretty colors. You see a lot of bleeding, some blues and reds in that one. And this one has a little bit more pattern in it. And again, it took off all the lines. You know, there's no lines. I love it in here. You can see the blue and the red. Those colors are just gorgeous. Okay, so I'm just going to speed through some of the results that I got from using isopropyl alcohol on that ink that was not removable with the coffee dye alone. I think that this was a huge success, and I would totally use these in my junk journal. I think it's a great option if you have some ink that is not water soluble. And I really love the results. So I hope that you watch the previous video in this series, the one where I remove ink simply by coffee dyeing. And then I'm going to have another video after this one using another method that may or may not remove more ink or different types of ink. So please stay tuned for that, and then I'll have a fourth video in the series which wraps everything up and gives you more details about all the results and the conclusions that you can draw from the various experiments that I ran. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you have ever tried this before, please leave me a comment down below and let me know. I'm curious to see, if you've ever tried anything like this. And if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, please subscribe to my channel. I will have links to all the videos in this series in the description box below, so please check them out. Again, this is Denise with PaperKraftD, and craft on.